In the heart of a sprawling forest, where the trees stood tall and ancient, their branches weaving a thick green tapestry overhead, an unexpected echo pierced the tranquility. A haunting sound, small, fragile, and undeniably human, a child's cry. It floated through the air, piercing the usual woodland symphony of rustling leaves and chirping birds. High above, on a sturdy branch, an owl sat in patient watch. With wide, amber eyes that seemed to reflect the very essence of wisdom, the owl trained its gaze below, adjusting to the whispers of the forest. This wasn't just any ordinary owl. It was known in the local lore as the guardian of lost souls. Legends spoke of its ability to sense sorrow and shame, and in that moment the owl's keen instincts kicked in. Something was very wrong. The cries grew louder, echoing from a winding trail. The desperation in the boy's voice tugged at the owl's heart, though hollow and foreign. It had witnessed many things, the cycle of life and death, the joy and grief of countless creatures. It felt an urging, a compulsion to do more than simply observe. As the sun began to dip beneath the horizon, bathing the forest in shades of gold and amber, the owl spread its wings. It glided silently through the trees, a shadow flitting across the fading light. Below, the trail twisted, revealing a small figure hunched amidst the ferns and wildflowers, a boy no older than 8, golden hair tousled, eyes puffy from tears. The sight was a heartbreaking juxtaposition against the serene beauty of the forest. The owl whispered in a language only the boy could understand. Strangely, the boy looked up, eyes wide, as if he could sense something extraordinary. "I'm lost," he choked out between sobs, his tiny hands clutching an old fraying teddy bear, worn smooth by years of companionship. "I can't find my way home." The owl, wise and ancient, felt an aching knot forming in its own heart. It knew every twist and turn of these woods. A nearby stream, a forgotten cave, remnants of a camping site, all mapped in its mind like an intricate puzzle. With each flap of its wings, the boy's spirit tangled deeper into its own. "Listen closely," the owl spoke gently, its voice carrying like a soft breeze. Without another moment's hesitation, the boy nodded, wiping away his tears. Hope flickered within him, tiny but bright. With a flurry of feathers and a strong but graceful leap, the owl began its journey down the trail, glancing back to ensure the boy was following. The boy trod carefully, his little legs struggling to keep up. Each step was heavy with uncertainty as the shadows from the towering trees stretched longer, inching toward nightfall. They moved deeper into the woods. The air grew richer with the smell of damp earth and pine. Owls were often seen as symbols of wisdom, but for this boy, the owl was a beacon of hope, an unexpected savior in a world that had suddenly turned upside down. As serpentine paths unfolded before them, the boy's surroundings transformed too. He saw bushes bursting with berries ripe for picking and trees laden with golden leaves that danced in sync with the wind. For small moments, the boy forgot his fears and let his gaze wander, drinking in the beauty of the world around him. But just as the boy began to lift his spirits, a loud snap broke the calm, followed by a rustle. Alert, the owl turned its head sharply. A few yards away, the thick bushes trembled. Anxiety prickled the forest air. The owl flared its wings, blocking the boy instinctively in a fierce posture meant to protect. Out from the bushes stumbled a figure, a young deer, its eyes wide and terrified, racing past them towards safety. The owl exhaled, relaxing its stance. The forest was alive, a constant reminder of natural chaos and unpredictability, much like the boy's own mind. "Don't be afraid," the owl assured softly, reassuring both the boy and itself. As they continued along the winding trail, the boy caught glimpses of softness and darkness, laughter and sorrow, all woven together like the forest itself. He began to speak, his voice steadier now. "I was playing with my friends near the edge of the woods. We were racing to see who could reach the biggest tree first. I was winning, but..." The boy's soft voice broke, his eyes brimming once more. "I thought I could find them if I followed the path deeper." The owl understood now. Bravery is often confused with foolishness, and innocence can lead one astray. "Courage comes from knowing when to proceed, and knowing when to trust your instincts, little one," it replied, capturing the essence of empathy. As they rounded a bend, the dim light illuminated a small clearing, tucked away like a secret treasure. Wildflowers swayed gently, bathed in evening glow. The boy's heart stirred. In that moment, he finally felt connected again, detached from fear and filled with wonder. Just then, the forest sighed softly as the horizon melted into twilight. Stars began to twinkle, flickering to life one by one. A soothing calm came over the boy, and he turned to the owl. He asked, uncertainty creeping back in. "Yes," the owl reassured, its voice steady and warm. "Love will always seek. Trust that your friends, your family, will search until they find you." With those words echoing in the boy's heart, they ventured on. The trail narrowed as they approached a bend where the trees spread apart, revealing the forest's edge. The sound of laughter bubbled up from beyond. Each step felt monumental, weighted with anticipation. Suddenly, the boy stopped. "Wait," his wide eyes sparkled, reflecting the light of the stars above. The owl tilted its head in silent agreement. Yes, he could hear it, that joyful sound, familiar voices he knew by heart calling out his name. "Sam," the calls grew louder, echoing through the darkness, infused with mounting relief. We were so scared, the boy's heart raced with excitement, and electric energy coursing through him. He bolted forward, bursting into the clearing where his friends stood, faces painted in a mix of worry and elation. They shouted, rushing to embrace him. The tangled emotions spilled over, laughter mingling with tears, the relief radiating like warmth on a chilly night. In that moment, he was home again, safe and sound, wrapped in the love of his friends. The owl watched from a distance, a silent guardian beneath the shroud of night. It could feel a shift, the release of tension, the joyous reunion. It had fulfilled its purpose. It had guided a lost soul back to where he belonged, both literally and metaphorically. But then, as if sensing a slight tremor in the air, the owl took one last glance at the mingling human figures, feeling a thread of connection woven through the cosmos. Someday, when Sam grew older, he would look back on this night. He would remember that he was never truly lost. He was only on a journey to find himself within the vast wilderness of life. The stars twinkled brighter above, and one by one the other wildlife emerged, drawn by the noise of the children, the deer, the foxes, the owls, all standing witness to the magic of connection, to the power of kindness, and to the beauty of being found once more. With an elegant flap of its wings, the owl took to the night sky, fading into the blanket of stars, feeling for the first time in a long while a peaceful flutter in its chest. The forest, a timeless realm of stories and whispers, sighed contentedly as it tucked this little adventure into the annals of its memory. And as Sam and his friends relayed tales of bravado and summer adventures, they remained unaware of the wisdom that life had quietly bestowed upon them through an owl's watchful gaze. The forest echoed that night, singing songs of hope and unity, a reminder that even in darkness, there is always a path that leads back home. In a quiet corner of an ancient forest, as the last rays of sunlight dipped behind the horizon, a soft sound shattered the stillness, a child's wail. The haunting cries echoed through the trees, a desperate plea that sent ripples of uncertainty through the woods. High above, perched silently on a gnarled branch, an owl, a creature of wisdom and mystery, stirred. Its golden eyes, reflecting the fading light, locked onto the source of this sorrow. With each cry, the owl instinctively felt the weight of the boy's despair, an unseen bond forming between the creature of the night and the child lost. The owl took in the scene below. Nestled amid a tangle of ferns and wildflowers was a young boy, perhaps no older than 7 or 8, his face streaked with tears and his hands clenched around a frayed teddy bear. Beside him lay a cacophony of fallen leaves, each whispering secrets of the forest, yet none could soothe his anguish. He sobbed, his voice cracking under the strain of fear. As the sun cast long shadows, the owl felt an urgent pull. This wasn't just another moment in the forest, it was a crossroads of fate. It knew the forest intimately. Every rustle in the underbrush, every flicker of shadow told a story, and tonight it would guide this boy's story back to safety. With powerful wings spread wide, the owl glided down, landing softly beside the boy. Startled, the boy stopped crying. His eyes widened, a mixture of shock and awe washing over him at the sight of the magnificent creature. He asked, wiping his tears with small, trembling fingers. "I'm a guardian of the lost," the owl replied, its voice like a gentle wind through the trees. For a moment, the boy stared, disbelief etched on his face. But amid the flickering starlight and soft rustle of leaves, he felt a spark of hope crawl into his heart. This was odd, yet strangely comforting. "We need to move quickly," the owl urged, its gaze surveying the darkening woods. "It's not safe here." Nodding, the boy clutched his teddy bear tighter, feeling an odd sense of trust in this feathery guide. He stood up, his small feet finding the unfamiliar terrain. The owl flapped its wings, leading the way along the winding trail, the moon rising high to light their path. As they journeyed deeper into the forest, the boy shared snippets of his day, his voice gaining strength. "I was playing with my friends near the stream. We were supposed to stay together, but I thought I could find the biggest tree all by myself. Then," the owl listened, its heart swelling with a mix of sorrow and empathy. Children often don't realize the importance of staying close until they face the consequences. It's a brave thing to explore, but bravery also means knowing when to ask for help, the owl offered, its tone gentle. Night draped the forest like a thick velvet curtain, each sound amplified in the stillness. The forest felt alive, the rustling leaves and distant calls of animals forming an orchestra of nature. Each whisper felt like a reminder of the interconnected world they inhabited. Suddenly, a rustle distracted them. The boy's heart raced as a shadow darted through the underbrush. He gasped, gripping the owl tightly. "Just the forest being itself," the owl answered, tilting its head. As they moved past more ferns, a small rabbit peeked out, twitching its nose curiously before dashing away. It was a simple moment, but the boy relaxed a little, comforted by the presence of life around him. As they continued forward, the trees thickened, creating a canopy that played tricks with the light. The boy found comfort in the owl's steady presence. They emerged into a small clearing where fireflies danced like tiny stars, illuminating the night. The boy exclaimed, his eyes lighting up, momentarily forgetting his fears. "Yes," the owl mused, "but remember, even the most beautiful things can be fleeting." The boy nodded, entranced. The fireflies glowed like lanterns in the dark, a symbolic reminder of hope even in the bleakest of times. Just as he turned to thank the owl, a loud crack echoed through the air. A tree branch snapped nearby, sending both the boy and the owl on high alert. He whispered, trembling. "Stay close," the owl warned, its eyes narrowing as it scanned the trees around them. In a brief moment, the forest felt heavy with tension. Then, out from behind a thicket stumbled a doe, a frightened deer startled by the sounds of the night. The boy watched, his heart racing again, but the owl stood its ground, emitting a soft, reassuring hoot. "See," she ran out of fear. As the doe dashed away into the blackness, the boy felt a surge of understanding. He asked, "Bravery often means moving forward despite fear," the owl replied. Encouraged, they pressed on, navigating the forest's winding paths illuminated by the moon's glow. The boy felt lighter, as though he was shedding his worries with each step, but worry can linger, and soon it gripped him again. The owl countered, its voice steady. "Fear often tells stories of worst-case scenarios, but remember, you're not alone." With newfound determination, the boy pushed away his thoughts. "I hope my friends are looking for me," he said softly. "They are," the owl assured him, its wings fluttering slightly as they reached a bend in the path. "When we love, the bonds with others stretch beyond just the physical space." The boy paused, feeling the truth in the owl's words. Love reaches far and wide, a thread that ties hearts together, even when physically apart. As they neared the forest's edge, the boy could hear sounds becoming clearer, the distant laughter of children, the warm voice of a parent calling out his name. "Is that," he began, hope swelling in his chest. "Yes," the owl replied, flaring its wings in triumph. With urgency, the boy broke into a run, his small feet pounding the earth in rhythm with the beat of his racing heart. He could see flashes of movement ahead, figures flinging their arms, faces brightening with joy. When Sam burst into the clearing, he halted, his breath caught in his throat. His friend stood just beyond the trees, eyes wide with worry and relief. "Sam," they called, rushing toward him. Tears of joy streamed down his cheeks. He yelled, his heart soaring. As his friends enveloped him in hugs, the owl watched from the edge of the trees. It felt satisfaction swell in its chest, a sense of purpose fulfilled. The night air shimmered with the magic of connection, the boy's laughter mingling with the rustle of leaves. The boy shouted into the trees, his voice filled with sincerity. The owl stood tall, its heart swelling with pride. It understood that even though it had helped only one child this night, every act of kindness ripples through time and space. Though the boy could never know the full truth of this encounter, he'd carry a piece of the experience into his heart. As the moon bathed the forest in silver light, the owl took flight, soaring high above the clearing. It watched as Sam reunited with his friends, safe and sound. The forest whispered its secrets to the stars, cradling the memories of the night, the beauty of connection, and the bravery that comes from forging ahead amid fear. And as Sam shared thrilling tales of his adventure, the mysterious owl, the enchanting fireflies, and the lesson of fear, the woods held them all tightly, a sanctuary of stories, waiting for the next wanderer to help. From that day forward, the boy would remember not only the adventure, but also the wisdom imparted by a seemingly simple creature. As he grew, he would learn time and time again that feeling lost is not an end, but the very beginning of finding oneself, and that guardians often come in the most unexpected forms, reminding us to always embrace the journey, no matter how daunting it may seem. A piercing cry echoed through the quiet woods, the kind of sound that sends shivers down your spine. It was a child's wail, raw, heart-wrenching, and filled with an urgency that cut through the serene beauty of the forest. High above, perched upon a sturdy branch, an owl, eyes bright and alert, flared its wings slightly, sensing the disturbance below. The forest was no place for a lost child, and this wasn't just any child. This boy was alone, abandoned in the overwhelming embrace of the woods, his small frame trembling against the lush backdrop of trees. Tears streamed down his cheeks, cracking open the silence that surrounded him. He cried, voice trembling, clutching a scruffy teddy bear that had seen better days. The creature was old and well-loved, its fur worn thin from countless hugs. The boy's heart ached, an emptiness clawing at him as he searched for someone to pull him out of his despair. The owl, wise and intuitive, felt an urgency to act. It had seen many things during its long life: lost animals, abandoned nests, and fragile moments of nature. But this was different. It sensed an intense need, a fragile thread of fear that could unravel a small boy's spirit. Swift, graceful movement, the owl flew down, landing softly on a nearby rock, its amber eyes fixed on the child. The boy turned, startled, his breath catching in his throat at the sight of this majestic creature. The boy stammered, wonder and fear dancing in his eyes. "I am here to help," the owl replied, its voice calm and soothing, resonating with an unearthly wisdom that seemed to wrap around the boy like a blanket. Feeling an inexplicable urge to trust this creature, the boy whispered, "I'm lost." The owl tilted its head. Lost is a tricky word. It can mean many things. With those words, the boy felt a flicker of hope ignite in his chest. He took a tentative step toward the owl, feeling the weight of fear ease slightly. "Of course." "Just follow me," the owl urged, spreading its wings wide before taking to the air, its flight graceful and beautiful against the twilight sky. The boy watched as the owl soared above him, then hastened to follow along the winding trail, his small feet pounding against the forest floor. The darkness deepened around them, but the owl's guiding presence was a comforting beacon in the encroaching night. As they moved deeper into the woods, the boy's voice hesitated, bubbling up like the soft bubbling of a stream. The owl glanced back, its golden eyes deep and wise. Every journey has a purpose. The boy looked up as the trees swayed softly in the evening breeze, hearing the comforting rustle of leaves. For the first time since he'd wandered off, he felt less alone. Bravery comes in many forms, the owl replied. It can be as simple as asking for help or as profound as facing your fears. Just then, a distant chirp caught their attention. The owl's head snapped around, listening intently. Stay close, it warned. Ominous sounds of the forest stirred, much darker than before, and the boy's heart raced as shadows flickered around them. But instead of retreating, the boy pressed closer to the owl, feeling a sense of loyalty to this creature that had shown him kindness. Just the forest being awake, the owl said, trying to reassure him. Feeling emboldened by the owl's warmth, he replied, I guess I have some secrets. That is a secret worth sharing, the owl encouraged gently. As they walked on, time lost its meaning. The boy saw vibrant, bioluminescent fungi glowing at the base of the trees, casting a soft, ethereal light upon the ground. Whoa, he whispered, captivated. The owl chuckled softly. Nature has a way of reminding us that beauty often exists alongside sorrow. Feeling a renewed sense of wonder, the boy started to talk about the game he had played before getting lost, how his friends chased each other around the massive old oak tree, laughter ringing in the air like sweet music. The owl asked, its voice playful yet penetrating. I thought it meant I was better than them, like they would like me more if I won, he admitted, his voice tinged with regret. Sometimes we measure our worth by how others see us. But true worth comes from within. Just then, an unexpected rustle drew their attention. A small rabbit darted from behind a bush, eyes wide with fear, racing past them. The boy gasped, covering his mouth with delight and surprise. See, fear can be just as real for the smallest creatures, the owl observed. But just like you, they are always searching for a way to comfort themselves, to find safety. The boy chuckled, watching the rabbit scamper away, finding solace among the dense undergrowth. Yes, the owl confirmed, its voice full of kindness. As they rounded a bend, the boy suddenly spotted a clearing bathed in moonlight, twinkling fireflies flitting like stars above them. A wave of tranquility washed over him, and he began to relax, finally letting go of the tight grip of fear that had clouded his heart. He asked, a smile lighting up his face. Yes, little one, the owl replied. Freedom often lies in acceptance. With newfound confidence, the boy stood in the clearing, his heart racing with the thrill of possibility. Memories shape who we become, the owl remarked, flapping its wings as they prepared to move again. But the journey is what truly matters. Just as they started again, shadows flickered behind them. The boy felt a ripple of anxiety. Just the whispers of the night, the owl assured him. Again, the boy followed, feeling emboldened by the owl's wisdom. They moved swiftly down the path, the air thick with energy and anticipation. Finally, in the distance, the unmistakable sounds of laughter and calling voices reached their ears. The boy hesitated, hope flooding his heart. The owl replied with a sense of urgency, its heart beating as quickly as the boy's. As they burst into another clearing, this time brightly lit with lanterns and surrounded by familiar faces, the boy's heart sang with joy. His friends cried, dashing toward him, worry etched across their features but replaced by relief and happiness in an instant. One friend exclaimed, pulling him into a hug. Another shouted, tears shimmering like stars in her eyes. The boy said, tears streaming down his face, but this time with joy. The friends looked around, bewildered. He exclaimed. The crowd buzzed with excitement. An owl here, they exclaimed, eyes wide with wonder. And then, with a majestic flap of its wings, the owl took to the night sky, silhouetted against the moon. It soared high above, looking down at the joyful reunion it had facilitated. A feeling of camaraderie filled the air, stitching together the laughter, the hugs, and the love that now radiated through the clearing. The boy stood in the warm embrace of his friends, his heart full and his spirit lifted. Thank you, he whispered into the night, to the owl and to the forest, filled with gratitude and joy. In that moment, he understood that every journey holds shadows, but with guidance, trust, and the courage to move forward, the light would always break through. He had emerged from the darkness not just as a boy, but as a small guardian of stories, a living testament to the power of connection, wisdom, and bravery. As the forest wrapped its ancient arms around them, the boy realized that while he may have lost his way, he had found something much greater, a bond with nature, a lesson in courage, and the irreplaceable warmth of friendship. The owls would always watch, and the stories would continue, echoing long into the night. In a secluded part of the forest, under a sky streaked with the last hues of twilight, a heart-wrenching sound pierced the air, a child's cry, raw and desperate. Help. The voice carried through the trees, trembling with fear and loneliness. A wise old owl, perched high on a gnarled branch, turned its head sharply. The owl's amber eyes glinted in the fading light as it scanned the forest floor. This wasn't just another ordinary moment, it was a call to action, a moment that would change everything. below, huddled against the thick roots of an ancient oak, sat a boy no older than 8. His golden hair was tousled, and tears streamed down his cheeks, glistening in the dim light. Clutching a well-loved teddy bear, he swung between panic and sorrow. He had wandered off during a game and now found himself alone, lost in a world that suddenly felt enormous and frightening. He sobbed, his small voice trembling as he looked around, every rustle in the underbrush making him jump. The owl felt a prick of urgency, sharp as the night air. With a powerful beat of its wings, it launched itself into the twilight sky, soaring gracefully toward the boy, who continued to weep in despair. The owl landed softly beside him, ruffling its feathers to appear larger and more imposing. "Do not fear, little one," the owl said, surprising even itself with the clarity of its voice. Startled, the boy looked up, his eyes wide as he took in the magnificent creature before him. He stammered, disbelief mingling with the hope slowly rising within him. "Yes, I can," the owl replied gently, "and I can guide you back to safety." Trust was a fragile thing, but in that moment the boy felt drawn to the owl, this wise being that seemed to understand him in ways he couldn't yet comprehend. "Okay," he whispered, wiping his tears on his sleeve. With that, the owl turned, leading the way along the winding path where the trees whispered secrets in the wind. The boy hurried to keep up, his small legs moving faster than they had all evening. As they ventured deeper into the woods, the shadows lengthened, bending and twisting like ghosts around them. The owl asked, glancing back at the boy. "I was playing with my friends," the boy began, his voice shaking. "We were racing to the biggest tree, but I turned around and they were gone. I thought I could find it on my own, but then I got scared." The owl nodded, understanding that children often wrestle with fear, of feeling born from the unknown. "You took a brave step to explore, but remember, bravery also means knowing when to ask for help." As they walked, the boy dared to look up at the trees that towered around him. They seemed like ancient guardians, holding history and stories in their gnarled branches. Fear started to melt away, replaced by curiosity about the world he had wandered into. Just then, they stumbled upon a small clearing. The moonlight filtered through the branches, illuminating strange and beautiful fungi sprouting like tiny lanterns in the darkness. The boy couldn't help but smile. "Oh, but it is," the owl replied, flaring its wings with a flourish. "Magic is all around us if we choose to see it." "It can feel that way," the owl admitted, "but we are rarely truly alone. There are connections waiting to be formed, even when we feel isolated." The boy's eyes scanned the clearing, marveling at the flickering fireflies that danced in the air, creating an enchanting spectacle. He felt a warmth radiate from the owl's words, a sense of comfort amid the uncertainty, but their tranquility was broken by a sudden rustling from the nearby bushes. The boy's heart raced as a small deer sprang into the clearing, its eyes wide with fear. It paused momentarily, catching sight of the boy and owl before darting back into the depths of the forest. "See," the owl said, "even the smallest creatures can feel lost in this vast world." The boy nodded, his heart pounding still but undeniably feeling stronger. The owl paused in its flight. "They are likely searching. Friendships are built on connection, and your friends care deeply for you." With each step, the boy could almost hear their laughter in the distance, and it propelled him forward. "I want to go home," he declared softly, determination fighting against the remnants of fear. "Then we must keep moving," the owl urged, leading him along a narrow trail that twisted like a serpent through the underbrush. They moved with purpose, the sounds of the forest enveloping them like an embrace. At that moment, he spotted something shiny nestled beneath the leaves, a small silver locket. Curious, he leaned down to pick it up, brushing away the dirt. As he opened it, a picture of a smiling little girl stared back at him. This was hers, he said, a sense of connection flooding his heart. "Everyone carries pieces of their own story," the owl shared. "Maybe one day you'll return this locket to her." The weight of that thought settled in the boy's mind as they continued on. He began to understand. Every encounter, every moment mattered, even the moments of discomfort. Each experience shaped who he was. Suddenly, a flash of movement caught the corner of his eye. A shadow flitted past them, low to the ground. He breathed, feeling the tiniest prick of fear return. "Only the forest at play," the owl responded, keeping its voice steady. "But remember, it's important to be aware." As they ventured deeper, the trees began to sparse, and the boy's heart raced. He could hear laughter now, and every echo pulled him closer to the source. "It's them, it's my friends," he shouted joyfully. "Yes, but stay steady. Trust your feet to lead you while your heart speaks loudly. It will guide you," the owl encouraged, its wings steadying in preparation for their next move. With renewed energy, the boy sprinted forward. The laughter grew louder, more joyful, and soon he broke free from the dense trees into an open meadow, a bright expanse under the stars. There stood his friends, searching frantically, relief washing over their faces as they spotted him. They shouted in unison, tears of joy streaming down their cheeks. He yelled back, an overwhelming rush of emotion filling his chest as he raced into their arms. The owl watched, a proud sentinel from the edge of the tree line. It understood that this was more than just a reunion. It was a moment of connection that would stay with them forever. In that split second, the bond of friendship, forged in fear and uncertainty, transformed into something brilliant and bright. His friends bombarded him with questions, their voices a chorus of concern. Sam exclaimed, pointing toward the trees. But the owl helped me find my way. The friends turned, searching the shadows for a glimpse of the magnificent creature, but the owl had already melted back into the night, its purpose fulfilled. Owls don't stay when they've helped, they watch from afar, a voice whispered in the back of Sam's mind. One friend said, wiping tears of joy from her cheeks. Me too, another confessed. Sam looked at them, a smile breaking through his earlier fear. I did. For the rest of the night, they sat in the meadow, sharing stories, laughter, and everything in between. They spoke of fears, of adventure, and of the magic that existed, even in moments of darkness. Each child found strength in their words, the bonds that tied them deeper than any locket could express. As the moon hung high in the sky, casting beams of light through the branches, they promised to never let fear isolate them again. The forest cradled their laughter, echoing it back into the night's sweet symphony of young hearts filled with hope. When Sam returned home that evening, he carried more than just memories. He held a lesson deep in his heart. Every twist and turn of his journey had taught him about bravery and friendship, about the power of connection even when the world seems to ebb and flow like the tides. And somewhere in the shadows, the wise old owl perched silently, watching over the forest, knowing that the stories of its children would continue to unfold, one journey at a time. It had guided one lost boy home and would forever be a guardian of the wilderness, fostering courage, educating wandering souls, and nurturing the endless beauty of connection. The forest would remain, a timeless keeper of secrets, waiting for the next set of footprints to grace its path. A piercing cry shattered the stillness of the forest, echoing through the ancient trees. Help! The voice was small, but filled with an urgency that sent shivers racing down our spines. High above, on a sturdy branch, an owl perched in solemn silence, its wide yellow eyes flickering with concern. It was no ordinary owl, it was known as the guardian of the woods, a creature apparently woven into the very fabric of folklore. The owl often found itself at the crossroads of the lost, where only the most desperate calls for help stirred it from its perch. Below, amid a thicket of ferns and wildflowers, sat a boy no older than 8, his face streaked with tears, clutching a worn teddy bear that looked as lost as he felt. He sobbed into the quiet of the forest, his voice trembling against the rustle of leaves. In that moment, his vulnerability seemed to reach the ancient creature. The forest felt heavy with the weight of his fear, a palpable energy that twisted like smoke in the autumn air. The owl blinked, almost as if contemplating the boy's predicament. It had seen many things in its lifetime at these crossroads, but this was different. This child was spilling the raw essence of sorrow that resonated across the ages. Something within the owl urged it to intervene. With a mighty flap of its wings, the owl swooped down from its lofty perch, landing softly beside the boy, who looked up, startled. He gasped, eyes wide, disbelief battling with a flicker of hope. Yes, little one, the owl replied, its voice soothing and warm like a gentle breeze. I have come to help you. The boy's mouth fell open, and then he took a deep breath. Indeed, but you must follow me and trust my guidance, the owl urged, its feathers glistening in the dim light. The tremor of fear still clung to the boy, but there was something about the owl's presence that felt both comforting and strong. He nodded slowly, reaching for his teddy bear, squeezing it tightly against his chest as if it would lend him courage. Let's go, the owl said, turning its head and gliding gracefully down the winding trail, wings folded elegantly behind it. The boy hesitated for just a moment, then let instinct take over. With tentative yet determined steps, he followed closely. The forest was alive, a rich tapestry of sights and sounds. As they walked, the boy absorbed the beauty around him, the emerald leaves glistening from the remnants of a recent rain, the distant calls of birds fading into the rustling of the wind. Yet amid this beauty, the boy felt a knot of anxiety clenching his stomach. He whispered, his voice barely audible. Every journey has its challenges, the owl replied, glancing back at him. But remember, even the darkest paths can lead to light. The boy pondered the owl's words as they continued onward, shadows lengthening with the setting sun. The trees seemed to close in around him like towering sentinels watching his every move, whispering secrets that danced through the air. Just then, a rustling caught his attention. A small rabbit darted across the path, its nose twitching nervously. The boy paused, heart racing. He asked, his voice a mix of concern and curiosity. Fear is a common feeling in nature, just as it is in us, the owl answered. But we learn to face it. With that, they pressed on, the boy's small feet moving faster now, emboldened by his burgeoning courage. He asked, glancing up at the wise creature, it's simple, we can't conquer what we don't understand. The boy pondered this as they ventured deeper into the woods. The air grew thicker, and the sounds of the forest became a symphony of life. They crossed a small brook, the water sparkling like diamonds in the fading light. As they paused for a moment, the boy dipped his fingers into the cool water, feeling a rush of clarity. He suddenly asked, worry flooding back. Consider this, the owl said thoughtfully. Your friends likely share your concern. With that thought, a glimmer of reassurance settled in the boy's heart. He felt a warmth spread through him, reminding him that he was somewhat tethered to the world he had left behind. But just as that warmth enveloped him, a nearby twig snapped. both the boy and the owl froze. The boy's voice had dipped into a whisper, eyes wide. The darkening forest seemed to pulse with an energy that made the air feel electric. "It's just the forest," the owl soothed, maintaining a calm demeanor. They stood in silence for a moment, echoes of unknown mysteries lingering around them. Then, with a rush, a small deer broke through the underbrush, eyes wide with fright. Moments later, it bounded across the clearing, disappearing into the thicket. "That deer was as scared as you might be in this moment," the owl said softly. "But remember, fears are often misunderstood." As they continued, the boy felt the tension release from his body. He hadn't realized it was there until that very moment. The owl's steady presence soothed him, and he began to feel more confident with each step. The boy ventured, his voice steadier now. "Bravery is complex," the owl replied, its wings fluttering softly in the evening breeze as they walked. "It comes in many forms. Sometimes it means asking for help, other times it means facing something terrifying alone." They pushed deeper into the woods, shadows dancing down the crooked paths. The trees swayed gently, their leaves whispering secrets that seemed to echo both in the hush of the night and inside the boy's mind. The boy suddenly asked, his voice slicing through the stillness. "Oh, indeed," the owl replied warmly. "Magic is all around us. It resides in every tiny detail of life, the way a flower blooms, the sound of laughter, the bond you share with your friends." Just then they entered a clearing where moonlight filtered through the trees, illuminating a patch where soft, glowing mushrooms sprouted. The scene was enchanting, as if they'd stumbled into a dream. Fireflies danced above, twinkling like stars in the cool night air. The boy gasped, "That's beautiful." "Yes," the owl said, filling with pride. "This is part of the magic I spoke of, and in moments like these you realize the world is filled with wonder." With each passing moment, the boy felt lighter, the weight of his earlier fears dissipating. In that magical clearing, surrounded by nature's beauty, he began to understand something profound, the essence of hope. But then in the distance, he heard the unmistakable sound of laughter, a joyful sound echoing through the trees. He exclaimed, eyes wide with excitement. "Let us hurry then," the owl urged, its wings outstretched as they moved swiftly along the path. The boy asked, his heart racing as they approached the sound. "Worry and love often go hand in hand," the owl replied. With every step, the laughter and shouts grew louder, wrapping around him like a warm blanket. Before he knew it, they broke out of the trees and into a vibrant clearing filled with the glow of lanterns. He saw them, his friends, relief flooding their faces as they spotted him. "Sam," one shouted, racing toward him with arms wide open. Another chimed in, tears pooling in their eyes. Sam exclaimed, enveloped in a cocoon of hugs and camaraderie. In that moment, he realized just how deeply they cared for him. He shouted over the joyful chaos. His friends looked around, astounded. "An owl?" they echoed, their eyes sparkling with wonder. "Yes," Sam smiled, excitement bubbling in his chest. As the forest held its breath, the owl perched silently nearby, watching this reunion unfold. It felt a rush of pride, knowing it had fulfilled its purpose by guiding a lost soul back into the embrace of friendship. The laughter rang through the clearing, bright and unabashed, as the sun slipped beneath the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and violet. Sam looked at his friends, then back toward the trees. He called softly into the darkness, knowing somehow that the owl could hear him. With one final flap of its wings, the owl soared into the night sky, disappearing among the stars, a guardian woven forever into the tapestry of the forest. The bond that had been forged would remain, echoing with every future adventure, teaching them all that even when the path feels lost, love and courage will always light the way home. As they regrouped beneath the evening sky, Sam felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. He was no longer just a scared boy lost in the woods. He had become a part of something greater, a story filled with lessons, magic, and the unyielding power of friendship. From that moment on, the owl continued its watch over the forest, waiting patiently for the next lost soul who might need guidance, ready to offer wisdom and explore the vast mysteries of the world alongside them. And Sam, with his friends by his side, would forever carry the memory of adventure and discovery deep in his heart, ensuring that no matter how dark the path may become, light is never far behind. In the heart of a vast and ancient forest where towering trees stood sentinel, a chilling sound broke the evening, a child's wail slicing through the air. "Help!" the cry hung momentarily, suspended in the twilight like a fragile thread, pulling at the hearts of any who might hear. High above, perched on a thick branch, an owl with deep amber eyes sensed the tremor of desperation. Its feathers ruffled in the gentle breeze, a silent sentinel in the dimming light. Every night the owl watched over these woods, a guardian of lost souls. But tonight felt different. It could perceive the boy's heartbreak resonating through the underbrush. Underneath the sprawling canopy, a small boy no older than 8 was curled up against the roots of a massive oak tree, his knees drawn tightly to his chest. Tears streamed down his dirt-smudged cheeks, his voice quivering as he called out for comfort. Clenching a tattered teddy bear, he felt utterly abandoned. He sobbed, looking around at the whispering shadows. The owl's heart, though not human, felt the weight of the boy's sorrow. This was not just another night. Fate had woven their stories together in this very moment. The owl gathered its courage, knowing it couldn't just watch. With a graceful flap of its wings, it glided down to the ground, landing silently beside the child. Startled, the boy jerked his head upward, eyes wide with disbelief. "Yes," the owl replied, its voice calm and rhythmic, echoing softly in the dim light. "I have come to guide you." For a brief moment, the boy stood frozen between disbelief and hope. He asked, his voice breaking. "I can, but first you must trust me," the owl insisted, its unwavering gaze piercing through the veil of fear that shrouded the boy. Heart hammering in his chest, the boy wiped away the tears with the back of his hand. He had two choices: to remain lost and afraid, or to follow this extraordinary creature. He chose the latter. Clutching his teddy bear tightly, he nodded slowly. "Then let's go," the owl said, spreading its wings wide before taking to the air once again. The boy hesitated for just a moment, but then began to run, his little feet pounding the forest floor as he chased after the incredible guide. As they ventured deeper into the woods, the shadows flickered and danced around them like whispering ghosts. The boy felt a surge of excitement despite his fear. The air was filled with earthy scents and the songs of crickets, creating an ambience that was both enchanting and terrifying. The owl inquired, glancing back at him. "I thought I could find the biggest tree all by myself," the boy admitted, his voice quivering with vulnerability. "But then I turned around and my friends were gone." The owl nodded knowingly. It's common to want to explore, to take risks, and be adventurous. As they moved along, the moon emerged, illuminating the path ahead. The boy took in the beauty of the forest, the silver light casting enchanting shadows on the ground. Just as he was beginning to appreciate the surroundings, a sharp snap resounded nearby, followed by rustling leaves. The boy's heart raced. He gasped, darting behind the owl for protection. "Stay calm," the owl advised, its voice steady. Out from the bushes barred a small deer, its brown coat glistening under the moonlight, eyes wide with fear. It paused just a moment, sensing the boy's vulnerability. Then in a flash, it scampered away, lost to the shadows. "Even the strongest can have moments of fear," the owl remarked, watching as the deer disappeared. "What matters is how we face that fear." The boy marveled at how true the owl's words felt. He began to feel a little stronger, each step guided by the creature that seemed to understand his deepest fears. As they traversed further into the twilight, the owl spoke again. I never thought about it like that," the boy murmured, a flicker of realization sparking within him. "They are connected to you by friendship, an invisible bond that still holds firm, even when distance separates you," the owl said, flapping its wings gently. The boy pondered the owl's words, realizing the truth in them, and allowed the warmth of hope to fill the hollow void left by his earlier despair. Each moment brought him closer to understanding that he was never truly alone. As the path opened into a small clearing, a chorus of chirping crickets filled the air, mingling with the whisper of the breeze. The boy felt a sense of wonder as he glanced around at the twinkling stars overhead, each one a beacon of light against the dark canvas of the sky. He asked, his voice imbued with a mixture of determination and doubt. "Believe in the strength of your heart," the owl replied, pausing to look deeply into the boy's eyes. Suddenly, the boy noticed something glimmering in the underbrush, a worn silver locket. Curious, he bent down to pick it up, brushing away dirt and leaves before opening it. Inside, he saw a picture of a girl, her face filled with joy, blue eyes glimmering like the sky. He wondered aloud. "Everyone carries pieces of their own story," the owl said, glancing up at the stars. "Perhaps this locket belongs to someone who needs help just as you do." The boy tucked the locket safely into his pocket, a new sense of responsibility blossoming in his heart. As they ventured forward, he felt emboldened, a sense of purpose accompanying his steps. As they neared a bend, the shadows deepened, and the boy suddenly felt a weight of uncertainty. He voiced, anxiety creeping in. "Remember, every journey comes with uncertainty," the owl replied earnestly. "It is through those challenges that we grow, that we learn to navigate the world around us." In that moment, the dark shapes of the trees seemed to morph, their twisting limbs becoming less daunting. The boy began to see beauty in the night, how it cradled its creatures and secrets under a shimmering blanket. They approached a small brook, water bubbling cheerily over smooth stones. The boy knelt and dipped his hands into the cool, refreshing flow. As he watched the water shimmer, he felt something shift within him, a wash away of the deep-seated fear, allowing hope to trickle in instead. "This place is peaceful," he murmured, allowing the coolness to steady his racing pulse. The owl watched him, proud of the boy's connection to nature. When you allow yourself to feel the world around you, you become part of it. They continued along the brook, their laughter and words mingling with the gentle sounds of nature. But suddenly, as they turned a corner, the boy froze, his heart pounding. An unfamiliar rustling echoed from the bushes, ominous and foreboding. "Stay behind me," the owl urged, settling its wings protectively. The boy asked, his voice trembling again. "Only the whispers of the night," the owl assured him. In that moment, the boy felt a jolt of fear and curiosity, strangely intertwined. Asked, his instincts flaring. "Courage often lies in understanding," the owl said, its voice calming. As the sounds drew closer, the boy's anxiety escalated, but he remembered the locket in his pocket, the warmth of hope pulsing in sync with his heartbeat. With newfound determination, he stepped forward, peering into the underbrush. Suddenly out sprang a small, frightened raccoon, its eyes wide with surprise. It darted past them, its tiny paws scrambling across the ground, seeking the safety of the trees. The boy let out a relieved laugh, feeling the tension dissipate. "You were right, yes," the owl confirmed, nodding. They continued down the path, the boy feeling lighter with each step. The owl had opened a portal to bravery he never knew existed, and as they ventured deeper into the forest, he began to feel alive with possibility. Finally, they began to hear whispers in the distance, laughter, carefree and joyous, echoing through the trees. Sam's heart raced with a mix of joy and trepidation. That's them. The owl urged, excitement flowing through its voice. The boy sprinted ahead, feeling a rush of adrenaline as he moved toward the sound of friendly voices. As they burst into the clearing, his heart soared. They are surrounded by lanterns and warm light were his friends, their faces alight with concern and joy. Sam. One ran toward him, arms wide, while the others followed close behind, relief flooding their features. Sam exclaimed, his voice filled with emotion. The friends looked around in surprise, their eyes searching the shadows for the enigmatic creature. An owl, yes, Sam beamed, excitement bubbling in his chest. As if on cue, the owl perched gracefully on a nearby branch, a proud guardian watching from a distance. His friends stood in awe, the atmosphere buzzing with wonder. This is incredible. They cheered, surrounding him in a joyful embrace. In that moment, Sam felt the warmth of love and connection surrounding him, a blanket of affection woven by his friends. He realized he was never truly lost. He had been on an incredible journey of self-discovery, and they had been searching for him all along. The owl watched as the joy unfolded, a quiet sense of fulfillment resonating within it. It had guided a lost child back into the light, helping him forge bonds deeper than any fear could sever. It soared into the twilight, feeling satisfied as it melted back into the night. As laughter filled the air, Sam looked around at the faces of his friends, feeling the tight knot of loneliness dissolve completely. He understood now that true bravery was about connection, about leaning on others during difficult times. "I'll never forget this," he vowed to himself. The forest held centuries of stories within its branches, and now Sam had become part of that tale. Each adventure, each fleeting moment, strung together like pearls on a necklace, a collection of experiences that would shape him. That night, beneath the blanket of stars and the watchful gaze of the owl in the distance, Sam finally learned what it meant to be brave. In the intersection between fear and friendship, he found the magic of belonging, and that was a journey worth taking. The owl had not just guided him home, it had led him to the essence of who he was meant to be. And in that clarity, he discovered that no matter how dark the path, light is never far behind. The sun had nearly sunk below the horizon, casting an eerie glow through the tall, mysterious trees of the forest. Shadows danced among the foliage, whispering secrets in the growing darkness. Just when the night began to settle, a heart-wrenching sound pierced the silence, a child's cry, sharp and desperate. Help! Perched high in the branches of a great oak, an owl with piercing amber eyes heard the plea. It froze, sensing the weight of despair echoing in the air. The forest was alive and yet still, a world both wondrous and terrifying. Tonight was going to be different. Down below, huddled against the roots of that very oak, was a boy no older than 8. Golden hair hung wild around his face, and his eyes brimmed with tears that reflected the fading light. Clutching a tattered teddy bear, he felt the chill of abandonment seep into his bones. He sobbed, glancing nervously at the encroaching dark. The owl blinked, its heart, if it could be called that, swelled with empathy. This wasn't just another night in the forest. Fate had intertwined their stories. The boy was wrapped in a cloak of fear that pulled at the world around him, and the owl knew it couldn't simply observe. With a powerful flap of its wings, it swooped down gracefully, landing softly beside the small figure. Startled, the boy gasped, his tears pausing momentarily. He stammered, his disbelief momentarily overriding his fear. "Yes, I'm here to help you," the owl said, its voice soothing like a gentle breeze. The boy hesitated, his eyes wide with both wonder and uncertainty. "I can, but you must trust me and you must follow," the owl urged, looking deep into the boy's soul. Clutching his teddy bear tightly, the boy took a deep breath, the air filled with the scent of damp earth and leaves. After a moment of indecision, he nodded slowly. "Okay, then let's go," said the owl, spreading its wings wide and leading the way through the darkening forest. The boy hurried to keep up, his small feet pounding the soft earth behind the majestic creature. As they ventured deeper into the woods, the trees closed in around them, swaying gently as if sharing their secrets. With each step, the boy's heart raced, not just out of fear, but with an inkling of excitement, the thrill of an adventure unfolding. The owl asked, glancing back at him as they moved along the winding path, illuminated only by the faint glow of fireflies. "Got lost," the boy replied, his voice breaking. "I was playing with my friends, but I thought I could run ahead and find the biggest tree, but then I turned around and they were gone." The owl nodded, its eyes reflecting the light of the stars above. It's easy to lose your way when you don't know where you are going, but remember, every brave explorer has experienced being lost. Gradually, the boy felt some of his fear melt away. The owl's presence was grounding, a steady beacon amid the swirling shadows. "I didn't want to admit I needed help," he confessed, glancing down at the ground. You did the right thing, the owl replied. Seeking help is not a sign of weakness, it's an act of courage. As they continued their trek, the boy began to notice the beauty around him, the high canopy filtering the last rays of golden light, the sound of a gentle stream gurgling nearby, and the faint rustle of critters hidden in the underbrush. With every step he took, he felt a little lighter. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the air as a branch snapped in the distance, sending shivers down his spine. He gasped, instinctively moving closer to the owl. Stay calm, the owl reassured, its voice steady. The forest is alive, and sometimes those who dwell within can be frightened. Just then, a small deer burst into the clearing, eyes wide and startled. It froze for a moment, taking in the two figures before bolting away into the darkness. Even the smallest creatures can feel fear, the owl said, watching as the deer disappeared. The boy nodded, heart pounding yet gradually feeling emboldened. He thought of his friends, of how they must be feeling, and it motivated him. He could return to them, he had to. They continued along a narrow path where moonlight poured in between the branches, illuminating the ground with a soft silver glow. The boy asked, a flicker of hope igniting within him. Of course they are, the owl replied, its wings barely making a sound as it flew low over the forest floor. Friendship creates an invisible bond, one that stretches even when distances grow. As they walked, the boy began to believe in that bond. He felt the warmth of hope pulsing in rhythm with his heart. Just then they stepped into a clearing where a gentle breeze danced through the leaves, carrying the sweet scent of pine and earth. The owl questioned, watching the boy's eyes widen in wonder. Yes, he whispered, taking a deep breath. Magic exists in every moment, replied the owl. You just have to be open to see it. Each moment we experience is a thread in the tapestry of life. As the boy pondered this, they moved further along the path until the trees began to thin out. The sound of distant laughter fluttered in the air and his heart skipped a beat. The boy ventured, hope rekindling within him. Yes, the owl encouraged, you're getting closer. But before they could reach that sound, a sudden rustle disrupted the moment. The boy's heart raced and he instinctively leaned closer to the owl. He whispered, fear creeping back. Let's take a moment to observe, the owl advised, its eyes narrowed and focused. As they stood frozen, a shape emerged from the thickets, a wild fox with fiery fur, its eyes bright and curious. It bounded gracefully into the clearing, pausing for just a heartbeat before darting away, vanishing into the shadows once more. The boy exclaimed, laughing nervously. Even the forest can surprise us, the owl said with a knowing look. Life is full of twists and turns, some frightening, some delightful. With renewed determination, the boy forged ahead, buoyed by the energy of the forest and the lessons he had gathered. They continued down the winding trail, the sounds of laughter growing louder, pulsing like a heartbeat. He shouted, sprinting forward, the owl soaring just above him to keep pace. As they rounded a bend, the trees parted, revealing an expansive meadow bathed in moonlight. There, silhouetted against the radiant sky, stood his friends, their faces illuminated with relief and joy. They called in unison, racing toward him, arms wide open. He cried out, tears of happiness flooding his eyes as he collided with them, embraced by their warmth. The owl perched silently on a nearby branch, watching the reunion unfold. Sam felt the heat of joy spreading through him. It was a moment that felt like forever, where fear evaporated into laughter and worries faded like shadows. One friend asked, stepping back to look at him. I got lost, Sam admitted, glancing back into the dark woods where he had wandered. An astonished silence fell among the group. An owl, they asked, eyes widening, filled with wonder. Yes, it was amazing. Sam began to describe his adventure, excitement bubbling over. The owl listened quietly, its heart swelling with a quiet pride. It had guided the boy not just safely home, but into a deeper understanding of himself. One of his friends asked, their voice filled with curiosity. Sam exclaimed, his eyes alight with determination. A wave of anticipation rippled through the group. They cheered, their voices ringing with enthusiasm, but then a cool wind swept through the meadow and the atmosphere shifted. Shadows deepened as the laughter faded, replaced by an unsettling silence. The owl sensed a growing darkness that made the hairs on its neck stand up. It flared its wings, feeling the energy shift in the air. Wait, it cautioned, looking around. The friends fell silent, the excitement of adventure momentarily stilled by an unfamiliar tension. The boy's heartbeat quickened. He could feel the weightlessness of anticipation shift into something heavier and darker. The trees began to whisper more urgently, leaves rustling as if they were warning of an impending storm. The moon hung overhead, casting sharp shadows that twisted and turned as if alive. I don't like this, one of Sam's friends whispered, glancing around nervously. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the clearing, reverberating against the trees. The distant sound grew louder, thundering through the night like a warning bell. Just then, a figure emerged from the shadows along the perimeter of the meadow, large and menacing, eyes gleaming like embers in the darkness. The friends huddled together, fear wrapping around them like a tight blanket. Sam gasped, feeling the weight of dread settle in his stomach. The owl's heart raced, its instincts kicking in. It commanded, its voice sharp and alert. But just as the creature stepped into the moonlight, they froze, their eyes widening in horror. A A massive wolf, fur as dark as night, stood before them, baring its teeth with a low growl. The serenity of the moment shattered like glass. Someone whispered, panic rising among them. The owl met Sam's gaze, its eyes filled with determination. You must stand strong, little one. There is strength in unity. The boy swallowed hard, grappling with his fear. In that instant, he knew he had to be brave, not just for himself, but for his friends too. As the wolf stepped closer, shadow mingling with the moonlight, Sam took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of his friends beside him. The forest held its breath, waiting, the air heavy with anticipation as the darkness loomed closer, threatening to swallow them whole. Together, he whispered, raising his voice against the impending fear, ready to face this unknown threat. But just as the wolf lunged forward, striking terror into their hearts, a flash of wings burst through the air above them. It was the owl, a blur of feathers, swooping toward the creature with fierce determination. The owl commanded, poised and ready to defend. The night had just begun to unravel, and in the depth of the woods, the boundaries between fear and bravery were about to be tested in ways none of them had ever imagined. As the wolf drew close, the path ahead shimmered with tension, and the fate of the boy and his friends hung precariously in the balance.